Hey there, welcome back to Wild Bird Farm. My name is Tara. I garden here in Zone 5 in central Iowa. Today we are out here this evening on a mad hunt to harvest just about anything and everything that's ready to go. Just to take you back just a minute, I sell retail bouquets to a local grocery store. And in our small town, there is a big dance recital this weekend. So they have requested a lot of bouquets. I made 12 wrapped bouquets yesterday evening. My daughter dropped them off today just before noon, and I got a call from the store, from the manager, saying we really want 3 times more. So I don't know if that meant that they sold out or they just want 3 times more than what they maybe had last year. I'm not sure, but we are going to put together just as many bouquets as we can. Now, I will put a couple pictures or video of the bouquets that I made yesterday. I absolutely adored them. They are so sweet. I really went with a pink and white color palette. It's peony season, so I am putting 3 peonies in these bouquets along with greenery, Sweet William, Orlea, Saponaria, Nigella, just whatever is blooming, and they came together really beautifully. I wrapped them in Kraft paper, but I also had some scalloped pink tissue paper, and I thought that added just a little bit of a special touch for this special weekend. Tonight, in addition to making some more very similar bouquets, I'm also hoping to put together I have some white peonies. So I thought I would do white peonies again with the greenery, but then I'm hoping to get some blue bachelor's buttons and maybe a few yellow flowers, and do some, maybe if we don't have some little ballerinas that want the pink colorway. I know when my daughter was growing up, she probably would have steered more towards a blue bouquet rather than pink. Or if there's some little boys in the dance recital this weekend, I thought that would give just some more options as people are coming in to pick up those grab and go bouquets. So this video is just going to be a compilation of what I'm harvesting, and we will definitely look at all of it at the end. I harvested the majority of the Sweet William in this small tunnel last night. I have a few left over inside, but I picked what else was long enough for our bouquets. I did have an entire probably 25-30 foot row of beautiful looking Sweet William in the larger tunnel, and it picked something up. I'm not sure if it was a pest or something soil borne, I'm thinking. So I had to rip all that out, and I really could have used it this weekend, but with farming, you just never know. So we're gonna make do. I have a couple of handfuls to use, and then we'll just keep going. We have a little bit of self-sown Bupleurum in here and in the other tunnel. I might let it go a little bit longer usually. I don't think this is gonna wilt though. It's pretty cool out tonight. So we're gonna pick it and use it in bouquets. Here's one that's gigantic. I wish the side buds were just a touch longer and we could use them on their own. If I was putting together any jarred arrangements, I would definitely keep all the side blooms, but we are not doing that today. And the name of the game is just to get these done as quick as possible. So we're going to end up with some greenery like that. The other thing I want to grab out of here is this Orlea. Now I harvested really hard on this just last night. And you don't want to harvest when the umbrals are in this shape. You want to harvest when they're in an umbrella shape. So I don't see too many more stems ready from what I picked last night. I do have a little bit of this inside from what I picked last night, so hopefully we can use that. This one is just a little too bug eaten. But then for Orlea, it does tend to wilt for me. So if you wait until it is forming like the seed pods or kind of green clumps, those are tough as nails. I use these if I weren't having to have a bunch for bouquets this weekend, I might let them go to seed and use them some that way. But most of these look a bit too immature to really be able to use right now. I am thankful that the Bouquet is coming to maturity. I had quite a bit, actually I had cress, penny cress, and that is all I used last night in bouquets. So these will look a little bit different using some Bouquet mixed in. And it also looks like a decent number of Nigella has bloomed out since I was out here before. I like to harvest it when it's pretty mature. This is a little wigglier and not completely open, but it should be okay. But the vase life for these is pretty good, and that just adds that real whimsical touch to bouquets. So I'm going to harvest in here as much as I can. I'm going to grab the saponaria in the back, the rest of the pink. I harvested a lot of that yesterday. We're going to clean out this succession tonight. And then I see there's quite a few sweet peas. We're going to take a look at those. I have a request for a DIY wedding next weekend. So I don't know how much I want to get in and cut the branches down so I have long enough stems. I may just keep up harvesting the blooms so they keep producing for next weekend, but we'll get in there and take a little bit closer look. Okay, I grabbed a few things. There is some scented stock in this dark pink. Most of the stock isn't quite ready yet, but these two definitely were. And then I wanted to mention when you're harvesting pennycress, you really want it to mature all the way to the end. So if you have a big pile of white little blossoms on the end, I would hold off and wait until it's a little more mature. And ideally, I probably would have waited another few days for these. You can see there's a little bit of flower at the end, but I think these are going to hold up pretty well. Okay, let's head down and look at the sweet peas. In looking at the sweet peas, I think I'm just going to harvest the blooms for me to enjoy this week. Let me harvest a couple so you can see the length that I am getting. You've probably heard me say before that we don't get the stem length like someone in a milder climate. So these are what, maybe 6 to 8, 9 inches, but they're really pretty. And of course they smell wonderful. Now, if I was going to harvest them for market bouquets, instead of just harvesting the stem they were on, I would follow down the branch and harvest a little bit lower. I'm trying to find one that I feel like is ready to go. The way they hook onto each other, this doesn't always make it easy. But here's an example. This one is even smaller than what I would normally do, but I don't want to hack into these plants too much. But you can see the bloom up here, and then instead of harvesting it right here where I'm only getting 7, 8 inches, I take it down a little bit farther, and this way you have something long enough to go in a wrap bouquet, and you still get the nice scent. So when this gets a little more mature and maybe towards the end of the growing season, I'm definitely going to harvest a lot like this. And for that wedding, I will do that next weekend. But for now, I'm just going to harvest like this. The more you harvest, the more blooms they push out. So you definitely want to stay on top of things. So I will do that just for me to enjoy these. Okay, I have harvested everything that's open. Decent stem length. You could definitely make a nice posy with these, which is what I will do when I go inside. But you could also make a neighbor's day. All right, let's head out. I think we're going to harvest the saponaria from the outside of this tunnel. I was able to harvest a good amount of saponaria. I usually put about 3 stems in these smaller market bunches. They look really good with peonies. They really dance above those larger peony heads. I really enjoyed using this. I haven't had any wilting, although right now we're pretty cool. I have just harvested so far this early March sown in the unheated tunnel. Now it was a little bit tedious to harvest because I let some raspberry canes grow up every year. Sometimes I use them from greenery. We used to have this entire bed full of berries. The Japanese beetles would decimate it every season. We never got to eat any berries, so that's when it turned into my veggie plot, and now it's kind of overflow for flowers. So the saponaria will definitely be easier to harvest when it's just out in straight rows in the field. I've pretty much taken out what we have here, so it's going to be several weeks, I think, before we get our next succession. All right, let's head out to the field. Okay, now we are in our peony rows. I have been harvesting on these hard for a couple weeks now. I think between today and maybe tomorrow and the next day is going to be my last harvest. I have dry stored some, which at some point we'll talk more about. And then I also cut them like this and just store them in water in the cooler. That's been working really well. I harvest at this stage or a little bit tighter. This is one I'll probably put in a bouquet for tomorrow. If they're tighter than this, I tend to store them. But what you're going for is just something that is squishy and fluffy like a marshmallow. If it feels like a marble inside the bloom, I would let it go another half day to a day. So like I said, there isn't a lot left. I've harvested the majority of these, but we are just going to get pretty much what's left today. And I do see a couple of these that are still too hard to harvest, so we will be out here at least another day or two. I strip the bottom leaves just to kind of help it, especially if I'm going to store them. I don't want them trying to keep the leaves green. I want them to focus on the beautiful blooms. All right, so I'm going to run up and down here and harvest whatever is ready. All right, got a nice little, maybe a third a bucket here. I definitely have probably 3 or 4 times as much in storage, so we should be able to use these through this weekend and hopefully stretch into next. I didn't have as many bachelor's buttons as I was hoping, so I probably only have enough to do 2 of the blue and yellow bouquets. I picked up some Orlea that is blooming outdoors, and then Baptisia. So yellow with the blue and yellow bouquets. And then I picked a few of this darker variety, maybe just to mix in with some pastel peonies, just to have a few more options. I stopped here at the sunflower patch. I hesitate to even show you this, but there are some self-sown pennycress. And my husband and I came out last night to tarp this. And when I saw what was growing, I said, I need to cut that tomorrow. Let's wait and we'll tarp it this weekend. So I am going to go through and harvest everything that is mature enough to use. All right, got about 7 stems of the pennycress, and our last stop is over to some yellow button flowers. They are called Dyer's Chamomile. I'm not sure if they're ready to cut, but we're going to go check them out. I was hoping these were ready, but they just aren't quite. I think give them a couple more days and some warm heat and they will be. Let me turn the camera around. Okay, this is that Dyer's Chamomile, and you can see like this one is definitely going to open. I could cut this stem, but we're going to lose a lot on the sides, and if I wait just maybe another, I don't know, 3 to 5 days, maybe a week, then I would get 3 blooms per stalk, and these are a little wiggly. They will get stiffer. But this is something great to add. I have picked some of this in this stage just as greenery, and it holds up well. And then, of course, we have talked about the anise hyssop before, and I am going to have this entire bed full of reseeder greens like these. Really excited for next year when that is more filled out. same thing with the yarrow. Just give it a few more days and I'd be harvesting this. Like this one I could harvest, but the rest is really a little too immature. This is a couple groupings of mountain mint. I have a lot more mountain mint over here. That's another great filler. And then lots more yarrow. And of course, I have this in rows up in the production field as well. We're actually down in the pollinator strip. But it's looking pretty good this year. Just not quite ready for me to cut. Our final stop is in the larger tunnel. Now, last night I took a lot of snapdragons and used those. We'll probably pick a few of those again, but the Baptisia that we picked is kind of going to fill that same gap. Yesterday I pretty much leveled whatever ranunculus was left in here. I think I put about 3 in each bouquet. So I don't anticipate finding many of those. Those are on their way out, but I'm hoping we can find some more Buplurum in here. Okay, so I harvested every ranunculus that looked good that was still standing. I harvested a few of the Chantilly pink snapdragons. And then the lavender Marylands look really, really good. So I'm thinking if I have enough white peonies, maybe 3 of these white peonies with some green accents might be okay. We are gonna go in now. I'm gonna let these hydrate and rest, and then we will pick up tomorrow morning and we'll look at the bouquets. Okay, we are back. It's the next morning, same sweatshirt, different day. I'm just going to show you the bouquets that I put together late last night, and then we are going to wrap them up together. So here's a close-up of a couple of the bouquets. This one's pretty similar to the ones that I did in the first round. Here's one with white. And then I brought out my Kraft paper and tissue paper. And I am going to reposition the camera and we're going to start wrapping. A little bit windy out here, so we're going to have to go pretty quick. But this one has Saponaria, Buplurum, the white peonies. Actually, it looks like I stuck 4 in here, and a few of the little ranunculus, as well as some snaps. And I just have my Kraft paper and tissue paper roughly folded in half to make a triangle. I snug the bouquet down in there. I pull up the sides and then it's going to get a staple at the bottom. And then I turn this in and I either have my business stamp here or I put a business card on here. And I actually forgot to bring those out, so let me go grab them. Okay, got a stack of cards. This one, the paper got up a little bit high, but I still think it looks pretty nice. Similar with the 3 darker peonies. I would say this year has been the first time when in late May, early June, I have plenty of focals in the peonies, but I'm scrounging a little bit for filler. So I'm going to take these in this morning and I will tell the manager at the grocery store that if they run out by late afternoon today to let me know, and I can probably bring in a few more for tomorrow. But we are heading out of town tomorrow morning, so I would have to do that this evening. Here's something else I was doing before, was folding up the tissue paper just a little bit because it's larger. And I think that actually works a little bit better. So if they would run out, I could probably bring in some more. I do feel like I'm pretty much out of filler after last night. We're supposed to get up to 80 today. So we could definitely see some more things blooming. And, you know, I might be able to put together like 6 more, but probably not too many more than that. I would say on a normal weekend. Now, of course, tulip season is similar to this. People are crazy for flowers, and I really can barely take enough in. But I would say as the season goes on, things slow down for me in the summer. So I would say generally I'm taking about 20 to 25 bouquets a week. During the slowest period, which is usually July through early August for me, I might only be taking 12 to 15 a week, and hoping that the majority of those sell. Don't want to take too many and not have them selling because I just feel like that's waste. These tulips are really opening. So here I put one of the white, the medium, and the dark pink, again with similar filler. Now, as far as what I'll have coming up, I have probably 75 to 150 maybe peonies left, either in dry storage or in just in buckets in my cooler. And when those are done, really the next focals I think will be the, here's a similar one. My next focals will be some white light sunflowers that I have in my small hoop. I don't have a ton of them. I maybe have 50 or 60 planted. I'm hoping that'll get me through a couple weeks worth of bouquets, especially if I have a lot of other things. I can just use one or maybe 3 in a bouquet, depending on what's blooming. But then next I'll really be looking for my zinnias to get going. And I actually haven't looked at them for a little bit, but I need to go check on them. Here's one with the darker Baptisia. Sorry, it's early. I'm not thinking with my best brain yet this morning. And then, of course, if my zinnias get me through June and into July, then we will have dahlias as my focal just to kind of round out the season. Of course, with other good things, I should have some straw flower and annual scabiosa start flowering here in the next maybe 3 weeks out. So those aren't really focals, but they can really work as a nice filler and even really work as a bouquet focal in a pinch. I have got another couple buckets of the pink. I have 5 buckets total. Yes, I have 5 buckets total, 20 more bouquets. So let me get through those, and then I want to show you the ones that we did that are in the blue and white and yellow colorway. We're getting down to the end here. So these I had picked the yellow Baptisia for, and I didn't end up having enough blue. So these are kind of a pink and yellow palette. I'm going to wrap these in white just because that is what I have prepped. Still really pretty though. I would love to know what you are harvesting out of your garden this year. I know just being in a little bit different zone than me can make a real difference in what you're harvesting. I was online last night a little bit and I noticed several people talking about pulling sunflowers. I think they were maybe in zone 7. But I love sunflowers. I know some people don't care for them, and some of the florists that get flowers from me, I don't think they really care for them, don't like to use them in wedding work. But I just think they're so cheery and they sell really well around here. So I know you've heard me say this before, but make sure you are doing your sunflower successions if you're hoping to sell some bouquets this summer. I am too short on my business cards. Let me go grab those and we'll do the last few. Okay, and now, as I was saying, if they do need a couple more bouquets later in the day, I bet I can probably scrounge around and find a few more bachelor's buttons by then. We're supposed to be pretty warm today, so that's going to push some more blooms. I really love blue and yellow color combos. I actually have this in my spring landscape. Let's see, there are three peonies in there, a little bit hard to see them. And the very last one, same as the last one. All right, and we are done. I'm gonna get these loaded in my car and delivered. I actually took today off to do weeding, mostly out in the annual field, definitely in my dahlia box. Those are coming up and so are the weeds. So I'm gonna spend the majority of my day today weeding and then putting down some straw. I haven't quite decided. I think I will film some of that, so look for that in an upcoming video. And please like and subscribe. Lots more fun to come this season. Thanks for hanging out with me.